A very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we've gathered some of the sharpest minds, the boldest thinkers, and most committed leaders in the industry. This gathering promises to be an insightful one, an impactful one. And of course, the conversations that we'll be having today are conversations that will shape the industry going forward.
I think transformation is important for all of us, irrespective of the color. If we don't have inclusive growth, it's a problem for all of us.
The country's biggest bank by market capitalization, FirstRand Group, appointed its first black CEO. The appointment tackled the two most difficult pillars of the transformation mission that ABSIP has been committed to over the past 30 years: gender and racial representation in the most critical responsibilities within the sector.
We are happy that we hosted a great, successful G20 and that ABSIP is also on those themes of inclusive growth. And congratulations to ABSIP for 30 years, Bulu and your team.
We're at 4.2 billion in 2019. We said half of that money shall go to black asset managers. Today we're sitting at 11 billion because of those black asset managers.
When our founding members surveyed the landscape back in 1995, the access and success pathways for black professionals was bleak and required proactive and deliberate interventions across the policymaking and advocacy dimensions. That realization stood then and remains at the heart of ABSIP's mission to realize a fully inclusive and ethically run financial services sector.
Since we took over the reins in the fund, we have given 7.7 billion to black asset managers. 10.9 billion of our assets are with BEE level 1 managers. We are now at 11 billion. And we've given almost 2 billion to black women asset managers.
More than 15 years ago, the average asset manager was sitting at around 500 million in terms of their total AUM. Fast forward, we can confidently show the growth in those asset managers, not only our allocation, but our influence in the market to say we are backing black asset managers. Data shows us the managers that we've tracked in our incubation program and who've graduated, their average AUM, they are sitting north of 20 billion.
Our ability to sustain and improve has really relied on four things: absolute clarity about why we are transforming. The second thing that it has relied on is an articulation of the culture that we've created. The third thing that it has relied on is a pipeline.
Our transaction on why we ended up with 91 started with a change of regulation 28. We actually think that 91 was a perfect partner for us because they are a South African grown global asset manager, but they've got a very strong global asset management firm.
If we really want to transform financial services in the long term, we have to understand the structural and systemic levers that are going to allow more people, more Africans particularly, to meaningfully participate. Because we can sit here and we can talk about transformation, but if we don't understand the levers, some of the structural issues that remain will be missing the point. Thank you.
If today's intense panels and presentations are anything to go by, we know that transformation is no longer a localized concept, but it is a global imperative that reflects G20 themes of sustainability and inclusive growth. We have seen the shift from compliance to commercial imperatives. It is important for us to truly ask the question of how quickly can we transform and how deeply can we transform. So as ABSIP, we've got what we call the AWIF chapter, and we are committed to driving this inclusive growth through the participation of women, and we will continue to do that. We have set the stage. We have asked the tough questions. We are not conclusive because the real work and tomorrow's deeper reflections still await.
Yesterday, we managed to reflect on the past, and of course, today, we will be shifting gear and looking then at economic transformation.
It is clear that there's a need for a comprehensive review of the BEE legislative and policy framework. BEE for me has become like an exam that is too easy to pass. In mining, the once empowered, always empowered principle makes a mockery of transformation.
Because 31 into democracy, poverty still has primarily a black and feminine face. 31 years into democracy, we risk being the only African country to be ever free from colonialism. And we didn't do a number of fundamental things that African countries do. Like, for instance, to substantially increase their education levels. And since when is 30% an acceptable pass mark?
Unashamedly, South Africa is a country that needs to be reordered.
We realize that there's actually a lot of noise in the market. Noise around BEE policy, noise around what seems to be a regression in DEI programs, and just transformation at all. It's really important for us as ABSIP and as an industry to be very clear about what it is that we're trying to do when it comes to transformation and what it is that we actually want to see. With all this transformation that's occurring in the industry, what does it actually mean for our economy? And today is that particular question is what we want to answer.
The founding principle in the beginning of the Constitution, if you open that Constitution, it says South Africa is founded on the principle of non-racialism. To my mind, that is an explicit rejection of the racial classificatory regime of the apartheid system, but it is inconsistent with things like BEE, things like affirmative action.
But the same
we must be
Constitution-
sincere
sorry,
when we
yeah.
adhere to that constitutional.
But the same constitution, though, David, actually requires us to close the inequality gap. There is a section, I think it's section 9, if I'm not mistaken, of the constitution that specifically says that we have to be intentional, and there's a regime that is allowed within our legislation.
If you read the wording, it says all South Africans must be equal before the law.
Yeah, but it also says what I'm saying. You are not disputing that. It's what the constitution says, that it's important and it's imperative for us to close the inequality gap.
In our perspective, we think transformation is more than representation, right? It's well and good to have 6 commercial banks in the country and have 4 of them being led by black CEOs, but there's a problem if you've got 80% of the population that's still suffering.
The sum total of their understanding is that black people, especially those that are poor, are good for food parcels, not for the ownership of the JSE, not to be the owners of capital, not to be the headline sponsors, but just to manage somebody else's money.
What, from a policy perspective, should we be doing to ensure that we close the gap? The reality is that apartheid was intended to not just deprive black people of access to economic means, but it also psychologically made us feel that we were inferior. It also meant that we did not get the level of education we need to get.
That each asset class has a very distinct role to play when it comes to really making sure that high impact sectors that are undercapitalized actually grow.
I think the central topic here is how do we crowd in the investment that's required in infrastructure, because infrastructure is always seen as the catalyst for economic growth, a driver for transformation, an instrument that can be used to transform our economy.
On an expanded definition, it's almost 42% of us are unemployed. But percentages means nothing. That's 30 million South Africans that live below the poverty datum line. That's 14 million who are in chronic poverty. That's 10 million young people who are not in employment, education, and that's 6 million boys that don't know their fathers. Because you see, it's stubbornly high levels of unemployment that then lead to increasing levels of inequality and increasing levels of poverty. So the root cause is jobs.
There's so many great opportunities and minds that exist in the South African context. We really are world class, black and white.
So if this is your land, where are your stories? Harriet Tubman is a slave abolitionist. She says, I've freed 8,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew that they were slaves.